There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, just bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear.
Welcome to ECDC Podcast, episode number 5. This is the first podcast of the year, by the way. So, yeah.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
so ECDC mission, for the ones that don't know, is to expose, serve, and educate the community through music. And we teach free music lessons literally to kids every Saturday. So, and the reason for this podcast is just try to bring knowledge and bring, musicians that have not been heard for real. And, well, in your case, Norris, you already been heard.
Oh my God. So
Internationally
today,
known.
everybody on this stage.
it's
So,
definitely been heard, yeah.
but just to bring musicians here and just to get knowledge from whether young people or older musicians that have been in the game, just seek for knowledge. So yeah, we're going to get right to it.
How do I find my sound? I listen to a lot of people, and I really hone in on the ones that really hit me in the heart. Learn as much as I can. Anything I think is cool, I'm going to try to learn it. And attempt to learn it all. That's kind of what I was taught. Don't just learn the lick. Go on and learn it all, because you'll need it down the road. Yeah, so, so I practice like crazy. It would be like, and the fundamentals. And then when you get with somebody, you get with people, you get, the open ear. Get really good with listening. If you're a good listener, you end up finding your sound. I think you have no choice. I would think you would have no choice, but I take that back, because I know a lot of people that seemingly can't find their sound. Every time you see them, they got something totally different going on. But I practice a lot, so therefore I'm looking for what I hear when I practice. That's the way I start off. And then partners, friends of mine would say, hey man, when I pulled up in the parking lot, and no matter what guitar you playing, I knew it was you. And I said, for real? Out of all these cats in here? Man, I just know your sound.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way I stumbled up on it.
Nice. Just say, Philip.
I know this is gonna sound real crazy.
Okay.
So, growing up, I was in church, so gospel was the only sound that I knew. I didn't learn about jazz or anything else until I got to middle school. My mom's a pianist. My mom's a singer. She did all that. She taught piano. She taught voice. She did all of that. But she exclusively sold herself, and I hate to use the word sold, but she was exclusive to the church, and that was it. So she would not listen to anything else. She would not do anything else. So my love of music came from my father. Although in his mind he was like the best musician, the best singer, in reality he couldn't play a note in real life. But he loved music. And so he would always tell me, he said, Philip, there's more music than just gospel music. There's so much more music. And so what I had to do, I had to unlearn just learning or knowing that gospel was it, like church music was it. And even the church that I grew up in, it still wasn't really traditional gospel. I didn't get that. I was in a church that was more progressive, and so a lot of the stuff we did growing up was like Hosanna type of stuff, all that. So it wasn't even traditional gospel for me. So it was like this weird, different thing. So I was just a little kid. Drummer just wanted to play drums, that's all. So I did play gospel music when it came to choir music, but outside of that, that was it. And so it didn't take me till later really trying to really understand and know what my sound was. Because for me, playing more than one instrument, you have to learn what your sound is. And that's a whole nother monster in itself, because once I really started, I felt like identifying my sound as a drummer. I started playing keys, and now I'm trying to identify my sound as a keyboard player. But then as a keyboard player, it's requiring me more time to practice, so I'm kind of neglecting the drums. And so it's just trying to create that balance, man. But then when I really just started to decide to be true to myself it's great. I listen to a lot of different people. I respect a lot of different people. And for a long time, I used to beat myself up because I was like, I can't play like them. I can't play like them. And instead of listening to the music for enjoyment, I started listening to the music critiquing myself. Like, I can't play like that. I won't play like that. And I'm now, instead of just enjoying the beautiful music that's being made, I'm literally downing myself and having a party like, oh, man, I'll never be like that person, instead of just saying, man, I'm enjoying this beautiful music. And so I had to get out the mindset of saying, you know what? I have to be who I am, who God created me to be, learn my sound and who I am, and go for that. And then get back to the point of why we all got into music, just enjoying it for what it is, enjoying the artwork that so many people, you can get all these artists in one room and they all create this beautiful picture, but everybody have a different paintbrush. So that was me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Earnest, Echols?
So for me, I had two. I played trumpet. I got a scholarship on trumpet, and I play piano. The thing for me in developing my sound, like Philip just said, on both instruments, you're gonna have to spend time with it. You got to spend time, and you got to listen to yourself two different ways: passively, well, really three: passively, actively, and in real time. So passively, it's like when you just play something and you just listen to it as you're driving. It's like, oh man, okay, cool. Actively is listening to it and analyzing what you did. I don't like that. And in real time means as you're playing, think about what you're doing, what kind of. So you, it's like you're listening to yourself constantly, and you begin to say, okay, I don't like what I'm doing here. This doesn't sound good. But you got to be. And a lot of times, finding your sound means being honest with yourself.
Yes, sir.
Do you suck? Was that horrible? I think that I didn't like that, and you just got to be honest, because nobody else is going to really be honest with you unless you really trust that person and you become vulnerable to people. So I had to just be really honest with myself. I remember in my bedroom, I wanted to play a duet. There was nobody else playing trumpet with me, so I had to record the second part, because trumpet players want to play the first part. So I had to record the second part first, da dee da dee da, and then I had to play the second part to match that. But I didn't like how I played the second part. I was like, I got to record this over. I don't like how I just played. So it makes you kind of develop a sound that you think sounds good, but also that includes what Norris talked about in listening to others play.
Yes.
Can you sound like them or better? And so as a teacher, I ask my students, okay, can y'all sound like me or better? I prefer you sound better than me, but I do my best to make sure they can't sound better than me. I want to have the very best time. So.
That refers to like discipline.
Yeah,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
You gotta, and that's the other part of it. If you're gonna be a musician, at some point you gotta find discipline within yourself without somebody telling you to do it. You gotta find a way to just hone in and do it yourself. Because if you don't, nobody else is gonna really care about it.
Yeah.
So we got Mr. Norris Jones,
Yes.
who's a wonderful guitar player.
Yes.
Yes, I am amazing. That's self-advertising.
Amazing.
Yes.
And you've probably seen him on the road with D'Angelo and so many other artists that he can go on and on about. So just look him up. Reverend Norris Jones.
All right. Yes.
Next to him, Mr. Philip Giles. All of these guys, by the way, I highly respect them for their craft and gift that God has placed on their life. So we have Philip Giles, who plays drums, keys, a kazoo, anything that you put in his hands. So, and amazing musician as well. And Earnest, Echols, amazing piano player.
Yes, Lord.
Yes.
Yes, Lord.
Amazing.
Thank you all.
That's all I have to say about Earnest. He's
That's
just
it.
amazing. That's it. He really is.
I appreciate
Yes.
it.
Really is.
I'm an
Really,
amazing
really.
teacher.
Amen.
He is too.
And that's great, for real. Yeah.
Are you all's inspiration when it comes to listening to music? I know that can, just we can start with Norris again.
It won't be that long.
Yeah.
Spanky. There's a guy named Spanky from the Mighty Clouds of Joy. Blah blah blah. D'Angelo, Raphael, Eric Benet. The list really goes on and on. Spanky, Eddie Alford. This guy ended up being my teacher, I guess, since I was about 14 till he died, almost 10 years ago, something like that. Yeah, I was already dibbling and dabbling, of course, George Benson. George Benson is that guy to me, but I was that young brother that was into Van Halen and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
If it calls for that, I am
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But although I'm a quartet nut, but within quartet there's so many sub-genres in quartet. Most people will say, "Oh, I'm a quartet guy," and what they normally mean is, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's so much more to quartet than just that." There's a part of it that sounds like two or three different versions of country. Some of it is straight blues. Some of it is this, that, and the other. But it all started from Spanky out. So
So, like I said, growing up gospel, but my first experience of learning one of my favorite drummers was this jazz drummer by the name of Max Roach. My dad bought me this CD, and it was Buddy Rich and Max Roach. They both had their bands. And
So you're
they both,
gonna have to tell me about that because I
and
need
they,
to watch that.
Yeah, and they both had their bands, and they both were big bands, and Buddy Rich band would play and he would solo, and then you had this black guy that was awesome, had his band play, and Max Roach he was solo, and I was like, who is this black dude playing jazz like this? And I was so amazed to where I had 3 copies of that CD because I destroyed it because I just literally engulfed it because it was just awesome to watch, and that's what got me into jazz. And so I was like, oh man, that was great. And then I started learning different gospel drummers, and but one of my favorite drummers is this guy by the name of Dave Weckl. He is one of my favorite because he is a musical drummer. I think in my mind in that way. He's a very musical drummer. Like, he plays with a band, but if the piano player is doing a lick, he right there with them. If the guitar player doing a lick, he right there with them. But he's still in pocket, and so that's my favorite. Far as keyboard players, man, what made me play keyboard was jazz, not gospel, nothing like that.
So Earnest did that for you?
Dude, well, I played with this cat so many times, man. I played with this cat so many times. And then you know what the funny thing about it?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize how killer he was in jazz because we was playing other stuff. I didn't even know how killer he was in jazz, but jazz pianists, those are the ones that was like sucking me in because I'm sitting here like, man, they're taking like I said, the canvas and like they're creating something that I'm like, I don't even know how you're creating it. I don't even know how you're making those voicings. I don't even know how you know how to add that note that's not in the scale, but then you tie. I mean, it was just like, ooh, what is going on? And so I was like, I want to learn that art form because that is beautiful. I thought that more beautiful than anything else, and so that was my drive. And so I as a young person listening, I listened to the Herbies, I listened to Bill Evans, stuff like that. So I was listening to like traditional jazz, like straight up traditional jazz,
some real jazz,
like the real jazz, man.
No Kenny G jazz.
Oh well, no, my dad is a big Kenny G. So I listened to a lot of smooth jazz, but my dad was that. So I can't really say far as keyboard players because there was so many that I loved. Even like say gospel artists. Like for a long time, I was a big Aaron Lindsey fan, like his production and stuff that he did. But then, honestly, man, there was a lot of guys that was here in Birmingham that I was a big fan of. And so I would literally listen to those guys. This is one of the guys where I was playing drums. He would be playing keys, but we were in a situation where there were 3 amazing guys playing keys. He was one of them, Doug and Demetrius. And I would sit on the drums. I'm on the drums, and I would be in amazement of all 3 of these guys playing together, and they all can hold their own. Like, for real, dude, that was like heaven for me, man. I'm like, yeah. So, like I said, man, I can't really hone in for keyboard players because it was just so many of them. But, like, if I had to say drummer, man, like Dave Weckl, that's my dude, man.
Yes, sir. What about yourself, Ernest?
Well, this is weird. My first person to listen to, as far as I can recall, was me. That's weird. I know that's strange.
No, that's
But
good.
that's from me just experimenting on the piano. And so that's kind of where I first heard myself kind of do something. It was before I did drums.
Wait,
so-
you play drums?
Yeah, I do. Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't advertise it. But
Yes.
Hey,
I heard
we need
myself
to hear
play-
you on drums at
no,
Jose
it's,
session.
it's not. It's not a thing. Trust me, it's not a thing. But just hearing myself play piano a little bit, I was like, okay, cool. Then I think, okay, who else plays like me? It was weird. I was like, okay, so that's kind of where I first heard. But I was like, just me. Then I started listening to my aunt play, and so my aunt played piano. I was like, cool. So it starts kind of close to home for me, and then you venture out and hear other things. So my listening, it didn't necessarily start with piano, aside from listening out. The first people or the first group that I heard was Take Six, and that's what messed me up a little bit. My aunt bought me that tape,
The voices.
Yes, sir.
tape, not CD,
Yeah.
not
Right.
MP3.
Yes, sir.
Bought me the tape where you have to take the little cover out and unfold
Yeah.
it and read all the stuff. I was singing along with everything, and I was like, okay, my favorite tune from them was A Quiet Place. And so I wanted to learn how to play it on piano by Ralph Carmichael. So just listening to that alone and just hearing
The voices.
how things just move, it was wild. I was like, because I couldn't play in all of my keys. I didn't know scales and all of that stuff, but I was like, whatever key they start in, I'm gonna have to find out what they're doing. And it was like so in that sense, I learned piano from listening to Take Six. But then you go on down the line, living life, and then I got to school and got in band, and eventually got good on trumpet. And one of the first people that I listened to on trumpet was Wynton Marsalis. And so one of my instructors said, I want you to learn this Hummel concerto, or the Haydn concerto. So I learned it, and my goal was to sound like Wynton or better. That's where that comes from, because I wanted to, and so when I played it, I saw my trumpet instructor, because by the way, my trumpet instructor taught Wynton Marsalis how to play classical. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and take a lesson from you. So he taught him, and he played the stuff. So I went to my lesson, ready to play the thing, and he looked at me and said, I could have sworn this was Wynton sitting right here. I was like, what? Because I didn't know. I thought I was sounding pretty good, but my goal was to sound better than that guy. So Wynton played a huge part in that, and then when I got to college, of course, I had been listening to Chick Corea because of my brother. My brother introduced me to all of those people. Herbie Hancock, so I had an opportunity in college to play a transcription by Herbie Hancock, My Funny Valentine. And so living with that and studying that song and reading everything he played out of his brain, I'm reading it and trying to recreate that moment and that feeling and the touch, all of that stuff. It played a huge role in my sound because I could appreciate all of those things, And so it's just listening to way more than them, because I played in the quartet here in Birmingham. Something about the hummingbirds or something. It was the golden hum. It was something crazy, and I played drums there, and then I think I played piano at one point. But anyway, again, that's neither here nor there. But it's just listening to different people and just being involved, like actively involved in wanting to make some beautiful music with people. So you have those opportunities to play, but you take more time listening, like Norris was talking about, just listening and letting the music kind of just soak into you, and you just kind of pick up, like my older pastor used to say, you eat the meat and spit out the bone.
Bones.
So you just eat the thing, you just digest what it is that you love, and everything else. Oh, okay, cool. I'll get to that later. But
Yes, sir.
it just comes in spurts.
The man Spanky played my lick. Yeah, I put this right behind that. Okay, Spanky says, Mister. And then the next thing I played was a little quartet thing. I'm playing all this at the same time. And he says, Mister, so I see you've been listening to the old man. And I said, and he says, yeah, Mr. Carroll, Howard Carroll. And I said, at that time, I didn't know who I've been listening to, but I knew the record.
The record.
And he says, yeah. He said, I'm pretty sure that's where you're coming from. He said, you're pretty young to be sticking that. And I said, yeah, no, it's not no Howard Carroll. And he was laughing. He started laughing at me then. He went behind the couch and pulls up a record while I'm sitting there going dang 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 bullshit. He said, "That's it." He pulls the record up and it says Dixie Hummingbirds, and I said, "That's who I listen to." He turns it around and says, "Mr. Howard Carroll on guitar." And here's the crazy part: that's Spanky's teacher.
Oh,
Spanky is not. Spanky is not. Everybody says Spanky's from Philly. Spanky's from Florence, South Carolina. The Dixie Hummingbirds, everybody says from Philly. They're from Spartanburg and Greenville.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they call them the Dixie Hummingbirds.
Right.
You know, Dixie ain't got nothing to do with Philly.
Right.
Yeah, that's so. And and that's amazing the way you was talking about the cat that you was into.
Right.
Your teacher ended up being his teacher.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So now put that all in there. Let's see how good you are.
That's good, man.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
no, that's good, man.
Yeah.
Ear have to do with finding your sound too.
You said ear?
Ear and gear.
Does it? Yeah, the ear definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you ain't gonna find nothing without that. You know.
yeah,
You know, get the best gear you can.
yeah,
You know, but we all probably know somebody that just almost didn't have anything.
yeah.
But you said, oh my goodness, that cat he's playing on a bucket, you know.
Yeah.
You see the little kids in Africa playing, they made a drum set out,
Man,
and you
they're
said they are
killing it.
really killing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And if they ever get a hold to a drum set, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely ear and definitely gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and always try to get around people. Don't get so caught up in being in the crew where you're the man all the time. You gotta find that bunch of cats that literally kick your behind.
Yeah.
Because I'm always gonna talk about Spanky. Spanky would say, Mister, this is what you gotta do. When I couldn't take it no more, when he was putting too much on me I would almost get a headache. I don't naturally get headaches. Spanky would say, no, don't just get up and leave. He said, just stay there on the couch. After a while, I would fall asleep. And then later on, 2 months later, I call him. I wake up in the morning and I start playing something. And I says, yo, Spanky, man, look at this thing. When I woke up this morning, I was playing. And he said, yeah, play the next chord. He said, yeah, take that B flat out, because he had the high end of perfect pitch. He said, take the B flat out and put a such and such in. And he said, yeah, that's by Joe Pass. You know, I was trying to show you that before, and you said you would never be able to play it. Then I woke up and started playing it. He says, here's the deal. Because you didn't leave, it went in.
Yeah.
That's the only way it was able to come out is you allowed it to go in. If you just run from people that's better than you all the time, you never get it in.
Yes.
So and then when you get in a fight, here you are trying to pull out stuff that ain't in there. How about that?
So and I want to add to that for all of you guys.
Yes, sir.
Well, at least another question. What was your the most learned? I would say the most learned experience of finding your sound.
Of finding my sound. You keep coming back to that sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, well, you know, I grew up out in the country, and it would have to be my brother played, my cousins played, but they could only play for so long.
Yeah.
I had to play every day. And so just by myself hearing, and I literally would learn all the parts. I would learn the guitar, both guitar parts, the keyboard parts, the drummers, because they would only go, when they got to the quartet rehearsal, the older people the grown folk go outside for an hour while I teach them the song, because they don't listen to nothing other than, they're not gonna pick their instruments up until I show them. Now, me, I didn't have no problem learning all the parts because it was just in me like that. And after a while, I mean, I had no choice but to. I was coming up with a sound. I didn't even know it.
Wow.
You know, my sound. You know, I just had a sound. A dude named Kevin Wooten. You know Kevin?
Yes,
you know
yes,
Kevin
yes.
Wooten? Okay, Kevin Wooten. There is a record. Somebody. This is no joke. Man, you can get all this out of here. A storm blew up, a really bad storm. The next day at my house, in Decatur, the next day I go outside, there's a bunch of trash all over the place. I'm picking up trash. There's a record over by the fence. So I pick it up. And I told my son, I played on this record when I was 12, you know. And I'd lost them all. I didn't have them.
Yeah.
The record is in my yard. And the record was still good. I don't know, to this day, I don't know where it came from. There's tornadoes and stuff
Yeah.
out that night.
Yeah.
Wow.
The record was in my yard, so I took it to Kevin Wooten and said, man, can you take this and make it to, save it for me so I can save it,
Yeah.
yada, yada, because he's got studio and all that. And Wooten don't know nothing from nothing. As soon as he put it on, I didn't tell him nothing. Say, hey, man, can you bounce this down so I can save it? He said, yeah, cool. And he says, when it came on, all this, the drummer, I remember the drummer had broke the bottom of the
snares.
the thing.
The
So it's a
resonant head.
kong, kong, kong. That sound was going on.
Yeah.
And we recorded it at in Nashville. Well, he played it anyway, and we said it had a thing, right? But check this out. So we as soon as the drummer said rung rung dung, he says, "Who are these people?" And I started playing, and the band came in, and Kevin Wooten said, "Well, I know that's you on guitar." He says, and I said, "What makes you say that?" He said, "Negro, like, I mean, Dad," he said, "Your sound is your sound."
Yeah.
I said, "Wooten, I was 12 when I did that." He said, "Good grief," and he looked at the year on the thing.
Right.
He says, "Wait a minute, you was 12. How on earth did you have your sound at 12?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, them old fingers, I suppose, And I was putting time in, back
Yeah.
then. Yeah, he said that you already had your sound, man.
Jeez. What about you, Philip? What was your learning experience of finding your sound, and does gear matter?
Well, I'll start with the gear. Man, as a drummer, man, I've seen some of the best drummers play on some of the crappiest stuff, man, and their sound is their sound, no matter if they were playing on
Yes.
buckets or not.
Yes.
They were killing it, man. And I spent a stint being one of the managers at Guitar Center, and so that was one of my things of doing is selling gear to people.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would do, or especially like with drummers, man, I had a guy, we did experiment one time where we took a sound percussion kit, which like lower line, cheap level kit. We redid the whole kit, put heads on it, took the labels off of it, rewrapped the whole kit. The guy took it out on the road and played it. He was like, man, so many people asked about this kit. Nobody knew it was a sound percussion kit. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I spend money in gear. I do. We all do. We want the best of whatever. But I just like what we've been talking about. I think if you create your sound's gonna come out no matter what. Now, as a keyboard player, that's kind of a little different because you can't go out and start playing on it. You can make a Casio sound decent in a sense, but like one of the keyboards you buy at Walmart, you can play a Nord, but you play that keyboard, it's not gonna sound all that good. But if you get on a Nord or something that can help create that bed for your sound, then you have that. So then I was reminded when he was telling the story, my father-in-law, he lives in Atlanta. He's a bass player in Atlanta, and he said he was playing somewhere, and this guy was on bass, and he was murdered. Like, he took every bit of life out this bass, like murdered it to death. He said, man, this guy was so good, and was a young cat. He said this guy was so good. He said, man, he sat in amazement just watching this young guy play. So he said afterwards, the guy came out, they were standing outside. He said, hey, man, what kind of bass you playing? The guy told him, and he's like, Philip, this is one of the cheapest basses you can buy. And he was like, bro, you too good to be playing that. So he went to his car, grabbed his $7,000 Ken Smith, and gave it to him. Gave it to him. He said, man, I want to be a blessing in you, because he said, man, the way you playing that bass, he said, you deserve the best. And so he said, I'm giving it. And the guy started crying. I was like, no, man, I can't take that. He said, dude, because he thought he was like the senile old man. It's like, man, you don't know what you got. Like, bro, don't give me that. Don't give me that. He was like, no, I know how much this is. I know what I paid for it. But he said, man, I just want to sow this into your life and invest in you, man, because you got so far to go. And he said, man, what I saw on stage, he said, I want you to have the best. And he gave it to him.
Yes, sir.
He gave it to him, man. But again, the boy whooped the mess out that little cheap bass, man. He whooped the mess out of it. So, gear can be a great thing, man. But I also, again, what we keep talking about, if you develop your sound, you can make some of the cheap stuff sing for real. You can, man. Far as
Yeah.
me developing my sound, man, I had to learn. I had to learn who I was first to develop my sound because again, my background, my musical background was just so everywhere because I
Yeah.
played gospel, I played contemporary, I played jazz, I played R&B. I was playing like all this stuff, and so it's like I had like musical Tourette's because I didn't know what my sound was because I was trying to. I was like for real. I was trying to. I was trying to stay true to the genre that I was playing and doing that, and so it was like I didn't know what my sound was because I was like, if I'm playing CCM, I'm playing CCM. If I'm playing R&B, I'm playing R&B. If I'm playing gospel, I'm playing gospel. So I wanted to stay true to it.
Yeah.
But when I had to learn and accept,
That's true. That is true.
yeah, it paid the money. So that's where I was going. But when I had to really learn who I was and accept who I was personally, it really helped me musically because it was like again I had listened to so many people and I had so much respect for so many people, and I had the admiration to play like them instead of me saying let me chew the meat, spit the bones out, and learn what's best for me. I had to learn that because I was trying to do everything, and trying to do everything made me. Yeah, I couldn't be great at anything. I was just mediocre at just trying to get by, doing everything that everybody else was doing, and so I had to learn how to. Okay, this is me. This is my sound. This is my lane. This is where I am, and I teach that to my students all the time.
Yeah.
Like, find you, and the one job that I always tell every last one of my students the one job that I want is for you to be better than me. Period.
Yes, sir.
That's your number one job is to be better than me, play better than me,
Yes, sir.
and find who you are. Like I'm gonna give you the foundation, but as we grow, I want you to be able to find your lane, find what you're good in, find what speaks to you, so that you can start developing your sound. And so when I found that for myself, that's what helped me.
Nice. Now that was good, Phil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ernest.
I want to piggyback off of kind of what he said before I go into all the stuff. There are two foods that I don't like or that don't agree with me. Either my stomach does something crazy or my mouth, this ain't good. Cilantro and avocado. Cannot do it. I don't know why. And then in the salsa,
Yeah,
it's like
it's heavy.
It's every bro. I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And so the sad part is, everybody else around me love those two
Yes.
things. Like avocado, saying, what are you doing? So,
Yeah.
and the reason we're bringing that up, in your musical diet, there are some things that just don't agree with you. And if they don't agree with you, that's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
I used to not like macaroni and cheese. As a little kid, I was like, this is gross. Eventually, I grew up to kind of like it. Maybe eventually I'll just go ahead and bite the bullet and say, the cilantro is healthy for me. But right now, I just can't stand it. I'm trying to grow to that place. So the same thing with music. I'm still trying to grow into a place. And I'll be very vulnerable here. I just talked about this a couple of days ago, that a lot of musicians don't like to be very vulnerable. I'm going to be real vulnerable right now. There's a song that we played today in church. I don't necessarily like this song. It's not my favorite song because in my brain, okay, and when I say this, it's not an arrogant statement.
Yeah.
It's just from all the music I know and the things that I know about, like worship and worshipful music, this song does not really help that narrative. It's just like, okay, y'all just really like this song. And it make y'all think of Disney and a beautiful outro.
It's a feel-good
It's
song.
right. It
It's a
feels
feel
great.
good,
People,
that's
it's
it.
so emotional.
Yeah.
More Than Able by Elevation Worship. I absolutely do not like that song, but I'll play it because it's what y'all say. Oh, y'all want to do? Okay, cool. I'll do it. So, it's what you want to play it, and then play it like the record. Well, again, I listen to records, and these people are just doing. I'm like, bro, I can't stand it, and honestly, I get nervous playing it because it's such a popular tune, and I'm like. I'm like, oh, that it just it. So, the other side of that is when you're playing pensativa. So you play pensativa. This intro is not in the iReal Pro. I don't know if it's in real. I think it's in the real book, but you got to know the intro to play in pensativa. And I appreciate that, but I don't appreciate this other one. It's like you got to learn to appreciate the entire song. No matter if you like it or not, just appreciate what people do. Now, on your own time, do what you want to do. But when it's time to perform the tune, do your best to do it like the record. And I just wanted to say that little bit right there before I go into it, because it kind of ties into what I'm about to talk about. So, little backstory. On gear, I'll say my first gear, and gear does matter. But then again, gear doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My first gear was pots and pans, beating on the drums.
Yeah.
Finding spoons, what I thought sounded like a cymbal,
Amen.
a snare drum. Then my mom bought me a small kid drum set with the paper kick. You
Yep,
could
I had that.
bust through the first kick like
Duct tape. Duct tape.
I need to make it sound like a real kick. You know, and then she bought me my first drum set, played it at church, blue drum set. I'll never forget it. And then after that, you know, you just kept growing up into the gear, like getting more stuff, and it got to a point. I don't think I had at church. I was playing behind my mom played organ and piano, but primarily she was on organ, so we were across the sanctuary, you know, old school. So she over there playing
That's my
organ.
life.
I'm over on the drums like
Yeah.
anybody that's over here, I'm just go ham, do whatever. So we did one service, and this guy, because gear matters, and so I had lost the legs on my kick drum, and so my kick was rocking back and forth. And the pastor who came to preach, he gave me $10 and said, "Hey, go buy you some legs and put them on there and keep it straight." I was like, "Well, thanks, man." And I was 8 years old. I ain't tell my mom I need some legs. You know, she already struggling, so I'm like, just keep making it work with what we got. So gear does matter, but then again, you play it until it don't matter no more. You know, you just play.
My last question to you guys is, what are the highlights of your music career so far? And what is some of your favorite gear to play on?
Favorite gear to play on?
Yeah.
Shoot. I'm gonna sum up the highlight real quick.
Okay.
You know, I'm a Donny Hathaway. You know Donny Hathaway?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm a
Oh,
Donny
yeah.
Hathaway nut. I've been a Donny Hathaway nut since way before I knew who Donny Hathaway was. There was a show called Maude way back. The original Maude, Donny Hathaway sang the theme song. I didn't know it. My big mama know I was really loud and you can't make me sit down. She said, it's something about when this show comes on, he'll get somewhere to sit down. Because every time they go back and forth from the commercial, you heard the music, and he sang in the beginning, and he sang at the end. I didn't know who it was. And then later on, they started playing a gospel song on the radio all the time, and I said, my goodness, what a voice. That guy reminds me of the guy that sings This Christmas. I still didn't know who it was, you know, and then that was my guy. That was the voice I looked for as a singer, you know, and I say I'm a singer before I'm a player and on any instrument. But here's, you're talking about highlight. I ended up playing guitar for Miss Roberta Flack. Wow. Playing guitar for the Miss Roberta Flack. And a guy named Tony Terry, when I'm with you, he was the featured vocalist.
Wow.
Yeah. Dude, good as gold, man. The nicest cat from out of Houston back then. Here I am. My mama called me one day, and she says, where you at? She thought I sounded a little strange, and I said, I'm just kind of trying to take something in. She said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm in New York. She said, what you doing up there? I said, I just got through playing with a lady named Roberta Flack. She said, the Roberta Flack? She said, child, you know that man that you like so much used to sing with her. And I said, I know. And that was my first day playing, practicing with her, right? Few gigs in, I would say maybe the first month and a half in, we're touring and carrying on. Tampa, Florida, 20-some thousand people probably outside. It's a gig, right? And on the contract, she's got to do at least a couple of these duets, the famous duets she did. Yeah. Tony Terry does that. His flights gets canceled. Now he can't get there. And it's about 15 minutes before it's time for us to go on stage. She said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And this dude named Rick Jordan, I don't know if you know Rick Jordan, from over in Atlanta. Rick Jordan was on drums. He says, he called her mama. He says, well, mama, don't worry about it. He said, you got baby Donnie sitting right behind you, because me and him used to play with Boney James together. Mm-hmm. And he says, and she turned around and looked at me and she laughed. She said, baby, I wish you could sing. And then she said, can you? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, can you really? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, what can you sing? She said, if I said, closer I get to you, you would say, and I, over and over again. And I fell into my part, and she said, oh, my. And so she said, you know, she said, and it happened just like that.
Yeah.
And she says, do you know, how much of it do you know? I said, I know the whole song. She says, any other duets that me and Donnie did that you know? I said, probably all of them. And she said, was it, that's the time, feel like making love. And she hummed another one. And I said, yeah, now it's literally time to go get on stage. And she looked at Rick Jordan. She said, Rick, I hope this man can sing. So the first time she ever heard me for real was in front of that many people. When we did Close I Get to You, yeah, she slammed the top of the piano down when we got to the end of the song, got up and gave me this big hug, and she literally offered me the gig for life.
Wow.
But I was going between her, Boney James, and Mr. Al Jarreau at the time. Wow. And I said, I just can't lock down to here because I love playing with Al. So I'm kind of.
Oh man.
So.
I don't want to talk about
did
mine.
I get
Just let him have that.
So that was a crazy highlight, you know.
That's wild.
And I look back, found out Donnie on the day he was born on the day I was born was on the day he got this certain big deal. The certain church song was released on the day I was born. Wow. You know, and this is like my favorite song ever.
Yeah.
And I said, how does this happen? You know,
wow.
and this is the caper. Okay, now I'm Donnie Hathaway with Miss Roberta kind of sort.
Yeah.
And she says, they would say, we would go into rehearsal. The guys would say, oh man, I hope she gets to talk, and I hope you get her to talk today. When she starts talking about Donnie to you, she'll just check the piano, and she says, your spirit is so much like Donnie. And then she'll talk a little while, and she says, you know what, we got this. Y'all can just go home. I'll see y'all Monday. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Then a few years later, I ended up playing for Layla Hathaway.
Wow.
The Layla Hathaway. It just kept going around. So when you talking about highlight, it just kept happening.
Yeah.
First of all, to play with her, then to sing with her, and then to sing with her, play and be called out on the road. Not just play when she came to town, fly out to go play with her.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the biggest ones there, Doc.
Jeez, that's pretty huge, man.
And you know, most people didn't know how dangerous she was on key.
Nasty.
When they hear for all we know, an A, you hear that E. Well, that's her playing keys, not Donnie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, man, you gotta hear her play it.
Oh Lord.
Ooh. Okay. I'm gonna stop right there.
No, that's good, man.
Yes, sir.
What about yourself, Philip?
Oh, yeah.
Tell it, Doc. Tell it.
No,
I think we all blown away, man.
I am, man. That's amazing.
How do you come behind that? Like,
Man.
But everybody got a story. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
Man, to be honest, for me, I've had a few different ones that I would have never expected ever happen, man. Play in front of a bunch of people, travel, do all of that stuff. But I know, and that's gonna sound real cliche, but for me, my musical highlight was watching one of my students walk across the stage from Berkeley
Yes, sir.
and then become Avril Lavigne's drummer.
Oh wow.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
he was one
Your
of
student?
my student.
That's crazy.
Jeez.
He was one of my first students. He literally, he
Yes,
was one,
sir.
and I got him at 5th grade, and got him at 5th grade, and kept him all the way to, and this was one of my drum students, man, and I kept him all the way into high school. He was first chair in Trussell Band. He was in a jazz band. He was an honor band. Like, and he was a killer set player at his church. So he took over the reins at First Baptist Trussell, his church, a huge church. So he took over everything. And I got him from 5th grade, and so he got a full scholarship to Berkeley. Walked across the stage, got his degree from Berkeley, and then became Avril Lavigne's drummer. And I had him, and so but it was the epitome of what I wanted, man.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
I was like, I tell all my students, I'm like, hey, I want you to be better than me and do better than me. And the fact to watch this little kid I mean, he was a little kid when he came to me, and to see all, cause like it's even now, it's almost like folklore now at Trustful, because in the band, everybody knew him. Everybody knew him in the church. Everybody knew this kid, and the fact, cause even the church that I used to go to, I had three kids. They were brothers, and they all played horns in the band, and they came to me, and he knew what church that I went to, so he's like, "Hey, do you know such and such, such and such?" He's like, "Oh yeah." They said he talks about you all the time. He said you're his teacher. I was like, "Yeah." They's like, "That dude's amazing." I'm like, "Dude, he really is amazing, man." But to see now that he's doing great things, man, that's so amazing. I'm just like I said, for myself, man. I'm just blessed to be able to do the things that I've been able to do.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, for a long time, I didn't have that clear cut lane. I was just literally, everybody was calling me to do other stuff. And some stuff I was reluctant to do because, growing up a church guy and playing R&B and B and stuff, when our, our our white brothers and sisters started calling me for stuff, I wasn't gonna accept the gig. I was like, man, I don't play this stuff, man. Like I'm a R&B drummer. I don't do that. I don't, no. But and a shout out to Alvin Garrett. Alvin, one time we were talking, and somebody had offered me to come on the road and play. And I was like, man, I told Alvin, I was like, dude, I'm not about that music, boy. I ain't trying to do da 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 da. And Alvin sat next to me, and no, actually, we was in the parking lot of a store. And he said, dude, he said, man, if God opening this door, he said, don't you shut it because you think that's not what you want. He was like, go through it. He said, man, go through that door. It's going to open some doors that you wouldn't even know that even open. And to be honest, man, when I went through that door, man, I've been able to play with all kind of people that I would have thought I would have never got an opportunity to play. I've been all over this freaking world playing with people that I would have never thought I would have been able to play with.
Yeah.
And even, again, just accepting a gig that I was like, man, I ain't trying to do all that or whatever. But when I did, it just opened up so many doors. And then plus, on the good side about it, man, financially, I was taken care of, man. It was a blessing. So I know as musicians, we all want to get on that big stage, and we all want to do that. But, I'm glad that God able to bless me in the lane that I was able to get in. And now, as an educator, that's what I care about, man. I tell my students, hey, man, I want to see you up there playing with people like Beyonce and playing with people like Jay-Z and playing with some people like Shania Twain. I want to see you all do that because I'm going to be right in the crowd with my ticket like, oh, yeah, I know that cat right there, man. Like, I know that cat right now. That's what I care about, man, because, growing up, we didn't have YouTube University. We had the local cats that we watched. And then we had the guys who we listened to on records and tape. That like me, I wore out tapes. Yes. I wore out records, CDs, wore them out just listening to folks, man. But again, now the blessing of having YouTube University, and you can see all your idols, but we didn't have that. I didn't have that, and so. I just had to get it where I can get it in, man. But the blessing now is to be able to teach these younger guys who are very hungry, but I want them to eat the right way.
Oh
Yeah.
I want them to eat the right way. That's the difference. It's like so many guys,
So
talent.
Can you explain that for the ones that don't
well,
understand?
the reason why I say that, and I know we all can, everybody have talent. Some of these cats are talent-wise. The age, like their talent is up here and their age is down here. It's like a gap. Like, because, when you get older, that's when you're supposed to be killing like that. But you're young and you killing like that, man. But some of them don't know all their skills. Some of them can't tell you a note on a piece of paper from a letter from the alphabet. But then, let's go to the other part. Some of them you can't even depend on. They come into rehearsal trying to learn the stuff then. Or they come in listening to the CD or listening to the music coming in. Oh, I ain't get a chance to hit on that, man. But how it go? Exactly. how it go, man. Or you got the ones that I was taught a very important lesson when I played They told me, they said, hey, call time is at 5:30. They said, call time is at 5:30. So I was like, okay, cool. I go in my room. I'm just chilling. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get down there about 5:30. I mean, we'll probably pull out about 5:45, 5:35, whatever. So I get down there in time. I get down there about 5:31. They're in the van waiting for me. The guy told me, he said, hey, I know this is your first time with us, but I'm gonna just tell you this. He said, when we say 5:30, we're pulling off at 5:30. He said, now, two things can happen. Either when we gone, you can call you a taxi or somebody to take you there, or we gonna call somebody else to come in and play. End of discussion.
Yes, sir.
Man.
End of discussion. So I had to learn. And so that's the sad part about it. I just had a situation happen last week. Well, week before last. We had the band I was playing, we had a fill-in, and we were playing in Biloxi. We called the guy. And now, keep in mind that Friday when we played, he was late to a gig. But then that Saturday, we're in Biloxi playing. Everybody calling him. He not answering the phone. He not doing anything. So, they took off. We already in Biloxi. They took off. The cat didn't call us, didn't do anything. All of a sudden, we walk out the room. We getting ready to go to the venue to play. He drives up. Get out his car, grab his horn, and everything was cool. And I'm like, dude, you could have called, you could have said something to somebody. This not even your band. You are fill-in, bro. Say something. But again, he had the talent, but it was the other stuff that he didn't have, man. And so now he called back asking to play again. They was like, oh, no, dude.
And that seems like a whole different podcast.
Yes,
It
is.
I mean, this is no joke. You had to be thinking it.
That is true.
The cats that just can't get to the gigs. If they ever get there, they can play their tail off.
Play it off.
How you gonna pull up this late? Like it's all right.
Like it's cool.
Oh my god! And it was no emergency.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Now that's what needs to be told,
bro.
Several. The biggest one, I guess, just the opportunity to play for Josh Stone. The opportunity to
I remember that.
to do stuff with Doug, for someone to give you a CD and say, "Hey, go learn this," for the possibility of going on. I'm like, that's a huge. So I learned that whole show that night.
Yes.
3 hours I played through it. I was like, all right, cool. Never got a call, but I was ready. I was like, gotta go. So that's the first part. Getting the music, getting the music to be prepared, and then preparing yourself, whether the opportunity comes or not. I think going on cruising the cruise ship thing for a minute with people that you don't know.
Yeah.
And you got to find a way to make music and build camaraderie with and live with people. That's a weird kind of thing. Life's journey, just meeting people and doing that kind of thing. Moving to Florida, and just by happenstance, hey, go to this church. Off your pastor's word in Florida, hey, go there. Just see what happens. Go there. I get there, and the band's just playing. I'm like, oh man, this is cool. They're just having regular church rehearsal. The bass player, someone asked me, you play? And so I said, yeah, I play a little bit. Went up to the piano and started playing. This dude said, hey, my brother's going out of town real soon, doing a tour to Africa. You want to go? And I said,
wow.
Sure. If it's legit. Like, who's your brother? Have you ever heard of Ron Canoli? And I said, oh, yeah, he's a 90, in case you don't know who Ron Canoli is.
90s.
He's like the father of praise and worship that we know now.
Yep.
Like, he was that guy. So I was like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
Ron Canoli, I didn't know that or realize that he lived in Orlando. I was like, sure, I'll go on the road with y'all. So I went to Africa for 3 weeks, and everything was taken care of. I was like, you just get on a plane, and you in business first class, just automatically, you ain't pay for nothing. I'm like, huh?
Yes,
what
sir.
is going? It was the wildest thing for me. And I remember I was playing at Brian Haskins' church with Rita Tucker, and I was like, and she had just got off the road with somebody. And I was like, man, this was years before. And I said, man, I'd love to do that one day. She said, Ernest, you're gonna get your chance.
Yes,
And so that's for anybody that's serious in music.
Yes.
You're gonna get your opportunity to do that, but you gotta be prepared to handle the situation.
Yeah.
You got to show up on time. You got to prepare yourself to know what and to know what certain things mean, and be teachable when you're out there, because I learned from Ron Canoli. This thing, if he points to the side, this means one thing. If he points up, this means one thing. But you got to know music to understand what he talked about.
Yeah.
This means one sharp, you're in the key of G. This means one flat, you're in the key of F. You got to know those things. And he would do this real easy. I'm in A flat. Let's go. Boom. And he'll say it without saying it in the mic. And then he'll go, blessings and honey, glory and honor be unto them. Like, you got to know the song. You got to know. So it's like, there are a lot of things you don't know that you're learning. You should go ahead and just learn.
Yeah.
Because you'll never know when you'll need those things. And be very serious about it. Like I say, I hate, and you are more than able, let them jokers call me.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Stuck.
And bro, I'm like, just like, you feeling? All right, here we go. The record. And then listen, and then be willing to listen to different versions, because even on that thing, and being able to play 6 years at the BB King's Club in Orlando with the guy that owned the thing, and he knew me by name, and I got his phone number. Unfortunately, he's passed now, but for him to be able to just call and say, "Hey, Ernest, what do you think about such and such?" I don't know this man for real, but he's calling me and asking me certain things because he feels like he can trust me. He asked me about the BB Kings in Wetumpka, in Montgomery. He asked me about that. I was like, I don't know if that'll be a wise investment, but if a lot of people are going to go there and support, and you got the it could be cool. I mean, I know some musicians. It could, if you wanted to be like this, it might not happen the way you want it to be. And true enough, it's not like it was in Orlando, because I was
Memphis.
not because I'm so omniscient and know it, but it's like you got certain cats down here in Orlando that are committed to do the job, and people in Memphis that are committed. Whereas in Birmingham, you might not have that situation with kids or people that are driving down to make that gig happen if you're doing it like you do here in Orlando. So to have certain situations just pop up, you got to know how to be professional, or at least ask, okay, how do you want to handle the situation? You got to be willing to be open to certain things, and not just shut everything down because it doesn't fit with what you want to do with your life. Just be ready to accept things. I mean, from meeting Sean Martin, touring with Ron Canoli, you meet Kirk Franklin, you meet Sean Martin. These people up here doing stuff. You sit in the band and you watch them do. I'm like, why you watch them meet with Robert C. Wright?
Yes, Sput, man.
So listen to Sput, have him do some recordings for you. It's weird how life's journey can take you certain places because you accept the gig not knowing that, okay, well, this ain't Frankie Beverly and Mays, or this ain't the Michael Jackson tour.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yes.
You need some experience, and you're probably going to get paid from it.
Yes.
But you need some experience and exposure, but you need to have already come prepared. One thing that's kind of been a common theme here is that all of us up here at some point were prepared for whatever gig, or we did a lot of preparing for the gig. Like you've got to become professional in your mind first and do professional things.
Everything, it's a relationship with that instrument.
Yes.
Man. It's a relationship. Because I had a love-hate relationship with keys for a very long, because drums came so naturally. But playing keys, keys was like, I had to really work on it. And one person who pushed me, because I was like, I don't forget playing keys. And then I got in a situation at a church where I was the drummer, but they had like different groups within the church. And so they were like, hey, for this group, we want you to play aux keys. So I was like, okay, I can tinkle and do whatever. That's what I thought aux keys was, whatever. Guys like him and them showed me that it was a whole nother world. Paris, all of them, they showed me it's a whole nother world, which I really appreciated.
Oh, Paris Barnes?
That was my
Man, that's ace.
he was with us. Paris was with us. I love that dude, man. Paris showed us a lot. Paris Bowen showed us a lot, man. But dude, like the lady who was over everything, we was at rehearsal. So there was an organ player, main board player, and then I'm on aux. And so the main board player didn't know the music. And this person was, the person who was over everything was Valerie Harris. She don't, we all know.
She don't play.
She don't play. And so she stops choir rehearsal and she looks at the main board player. It's like, you know the song? Get up. Tells the organ player to go to the main keys to play it. She looks at him. He doesn't know it. And so she turns to me. And I'm like, hold up. I know my tinkles, but that's all I know. That's all I know.
Can I pause
So-
right there?
No,
Pause right
do
there.
it.
you gotta understand that Valerie Harris can play this music.
Yo, she can play it all.
And she can sit. The next person gonna get her keyboard.
And
If
right.
he didn't do it, it was gonna be her.
And that's what happened. So she literally, like a mother, she made all three of us sit down in the bench on the pew.
gosh.
She jumped on the keys and she literally said, I want the whole musicians to stay after rehearsal. So afterwards she got done, she sent everybody off and she said to her, she said, look, she said, this is the rule going forward. She said, if you're playing any part, man, you playing aux, organ, know the main, period. She said, period. She said, period. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah. If you can't play the main part, I don't want you playing nothing else. Because she said, if you're going to take the time to learn the main part, guess what? It's going to force you to listen to everything else.
That's true.
And she said, you need to put in that time. And so when she scolded me after that, that's when I really had to really get in. And so I had to really develop a love relationship with my instrument in order for me to keep going back to it over and over again. And then so it's just like what Earnest was saying. I found myself, because I'm a big sounds guy, and I can just cycle through sounds and just play one chord. I don't have to play a whole thing. I can just play a chord, or I can just play one note, especially if it's an ARP or arpeggiated sound. And from there, it literally opens this whole world.
It opens that.
Yes, it opens everything, and the beauty of it is that you can go so many ways with it. And I've just done 8-measure, 4-measure loops of different ideas just based off of one chord and one sound, man. And so again, you can't develop that sound if you don't have that relationship with that instrument.
That's good, man.